uh, Virgo, there are people who move through the world and leave traces, not intentionally, not as a strategy, not because they're performing something designed to be remembered, but because something about the specific quality of who they are, the particular combination of depth and presence, and that specific thing that lives just beneath the surface of them makes an impression that doesn't follow the normal rules of fading. Most impressions fade. That's the ordinary truth of human interaction. People move through each other's lives, leave something, and that something diminishes with time, with distance, with the arrival of new people, new experiences, new things to occupy the mind and redirect the memory. Um, and then there are the rare ones, the ones that don't follow that trajectory, the ones that stay, not because of anything done deliberately, not because of performance or strategy or the careful construction of a particular image, but because of something native, something built into the specific frequency of who they are that doesn't dissolve the way ordinary things dissolve. You are one of those rare ones. And the person I'm sensing around you right now, the one who has encountered you, who has been in your orbit, who has had the specific experience of being close enough to feel what you actually are, is discovering that for themselves in real time, in a way they were not prepared for. First layer, the particular quality of your presence. And I want to start here, not with what they feel, but with what you carry, because understanding what you carry is what explains everything else. There's something that happens when a person chooses themselves fully, deliberately, without apology. When they make the decision, consciously or through lived wisdom, to protect their energy, to stop dispersing themselves across situations and people that don't honor what they carry, to draw inward, not out of coldness, not out of damage, but out of a deep, quiet understanding that what they have is worth protecting. Uh, that choice, the choice to be selective, the choice to wait, the choice to exist in your own wholeness rather than fragment yourself for the sake of connection that isn't worthy. That choice does something visible, even when you can't see it yourself. It concentrates you, it makes you more of yourself, more present, more grounded, more genuinely, unmistakably you, in a way that people who scatter themselves never quite manage to be. And that concentration, that specific, earned, quietly powerful quality of someone who has chosen to remain whole, is felt by the people around you before they understand what they're feeling in their body, in that involuntary awareness that something in the room is different, that someone in the room is operating from a different place than what they're used to encountering, that someone is you, and the effect it's having on the person in your orbit right now is more significant than what's been visible on the surface. Second layer, what they've never experienced before. And this is the layer I want to develop carefully because it carries the most weight. Most people move through their relational lives encountering variations of familiar things. People who are attractive but not deep. People who are deep but not present. People who are present but not whole. People who offer something, sometimes something significant, but always with an absence alongside the offering, a gap, a place where something is missing that they've learned over time to adapt to work around, to quietly stop expecting to find. And then they encounter someone who doesn't have the gap or whose gap is different, smaller, or in a place that doesn't create the same absence. Someone who offers something that doesn't come with the usual trade off. Someone whose presence doesn't require them to lower their expectations in one area to appreciate what's given in another. That encounter is disorienting in the best possible sense. It produces a kind of recalibration, a quiet internal rearrangement of what this person thought was possible, of what they thought they could find, of what they thought they deserved to find. And that recalibration, once it begins, cannot be undone. You cannot unknow that something is possible. Once you've encountered it, you cannot return to comfortable limitation. Once something without that limitation has shown you what it feels like, that's where this person is. In the middle of that recalibration, adjusting to the discovery, quietly, maybe without fully naming it, that something they didn't think existed in the specific form they needed it has been standing in front of them. In you, in the particular, unrepeatable, completely singular version of you that exists right now. Third layer, the role your celibacy plays in all of this. And I want to talk about this directly, not around it, not softly. Because I think the significance of this choice is underestimated even by you choosing to protect your energy, to not offer the most intimate version of yourself to anyone who hasn't earned that offering, is not simply a personal boundary. It is a statement, a quiet, powerful, deeply legible statement about how you understand your own worth, about what you require before you open, about the standard you hold, not because someone else said it for you, but because something in you recognized that you were worth a standard and decided to hold it. And people feel that, even when it's not stated, even when it's not performed or announced, there is a quality to someone who is genuinely selective, genuinely not strategically, that communicates itself without words. Something in the way they carry themselves, something in the way they don't reach, something in the particular self possession of someone who is not desperate for connection in any form, who requires it to be the right form that produces in others a very specific response, not indifference. The opposite, a kind of intensification, the particular human instinct to want more deeply, what presents itself as genuinely rare, what doesn't come easily, what requires something real before it opens. And this person, in the specific way they've been responding to you, in the particular quality of their attention, in the way they're showing up, differently than they show up elsewhere, is experiencing exactly that intensification because of what you are and because of what you've chosen to protect. Fourth layer, what they think about when they think about you. And I want to go here carefully without claiming certainty, because I think you've been underestimating this significantly. There are thoughts that arrive by invitation, things you sit down to think about deliberately when you have time. And then there are thoughts that arrive uninvited, that interrupt, that insert themselves, that show up in the middle of something else entirely and demand a moment before they'll let you continue. You are the second kind of thought for this person, the uninvited kind, the kind that arrives when they're driving or in the middle of a conversation about something unrelated or just before sleep. When the mind finally goes quiet enough to surface what it's actually been carrying, and what it's been carrying consistently, persistently, with a frequency they maybe haven't admitted to anyone, is you. The specific texture of you, the particular way you exist, the version of you that is different, genuinely, unmistakably different from everyone else they've encountered. And what accompanies those thoughts, what arrives alongside your name in their interior, is not just attraction. Though that's there, it's something more complex, something closer to wonder. The particular feeling of someone who has encountered something they didn't know was real, something they maybe stopped expecting to find, and is still in the process of understanding what it means. That it exists, that you exist in the specific form that you do in their life at this particular moment. That wonder, that specific, slightly disorienting wonder, is one of the rarest things one person can produce in another. And you're producing it without trying, without strategy, simply by being fully, unapologetically, completely yourself. Fifth layer, why they've never experienced anyone like you. And I want to be specific about this because it's not simply about you being exceptional in some general, unexamined sense. It's about something more particular than that. Most people they've encountered, even the ones they cared about, even the ones who mattered, were available in a way that over time made their availability feel ordinary. Presence that is always accessible gradually becomes background. Energy that is freely given eventually stops registering as special, not because the person giving it isn't special, but because humans, by nature, adapt to what is constant. We stop seeing what we've stopped having to earn. You are not constant in that way. Not because you're withholding, not as a game, but because what you carry is genuinely precious to you. And precious things don't come without real presence being offered in return. And so they can't adapt to you the way they've adapted to others. They can't take you for granted the way familiarity usually enables. Every interaction carries the quality of something that isn't guaranteed, and things that aren't guaranteed retain a aliveness, an electricity, a significance that guaranteed things lose almost immediately. Um, that's what they're experiencing. Not just you, but the particular experience of being around someone who doesn't become ordinary, who doesn't flatten into background, who remains interaction after interaction as vivid and specific and present as the first time they encountered you. And that experience, that inability to take you for granted, that continued aliveness of what you produce in them, is something they have not felt before. Not like this, not to this degree, not with this person, not with you. Sixth layer, what this means going forward, because I want to leave you with something useful, not just affirming, but genuinely useful, something worth carrying into whatever unfolds next. The power you carry in this, the particular kind of power that comes from someone who has chosen wholeness over availability, is real, and it's working, not as manipulation, as the natural consequence of someone operating from a place of genuine self respect. But here's what I want to add to that. Because power without discernment is just a different kind of vulnerability. The fact that this person has never experienced anyone like you, the fact that you are producing something in them they haven't felt before, doesn't automatically mean they're ready to honor it, doesn't automatically mean they have the capacity right now to meet what you carry with the quality of presence it deserves. New experiences are disorienting. Beautiful things can produce avoidance as easily as they produce pursuit, especially in people who aren't used to wanting something this much, who aren't practiced at receiving something this rare. And so the question, the one worth holding as this unfolds, is not just do they feel something they've never felt before? The answer to that seems clear. The question is, are they becoming someone who can show up for what they feel? Are they moving toward that capacity? Or are they still in the disorientation of it? Watch for that. Not anxiously, not with the kind of surveillance that turns a connection into a performance review, but with clear eyes, with the particular clarity of someone who knows their worth and is interested in whether the person in front of them is growing into a position to honor it. Seventh layer. What I want to leave you with, the thing that stayed with me longest after everything else settled, you are beautiful, not in the surface sense, though that may be true too, in the deeper sense. The sense of someone whose interior is as developed as their exterior, whose depth is real, whose warmth is genuine, whose choices, including the choice to protect yourself, to wait, to remain whole, speak to a quality of self understanding that most people spend years trying to arrive at and never quite reaching. And you are rare, not as a performance, not because you've constructed rarity deliberately, but because the combination of who you are, the depth, the warmth, the self possession, the standard you hold, the particular quality of your presence in a room, in a conversation, in someone's memory, long after you've left, that combination doesn't come assembled this way very often. And the person in your orbit right now is learning that in real time, in the specific, undeniable way that you only learn something when you're standing close enough to feel it. They've never experienced anyone like you. That's not a small thing. That's not a casual observation. That's the kind of recognition that rearranges a person's interior, that shifts what they think is possible, what they think they want, what they think they're looking for permanently, irreversibly, in a way that means that even if nothing else happens, even if the story takes a turn neither of you expected, you have already changed something in them, something real, something lasting, something they will measure every subsequent experience against. That is not nothing. That is everything. That is what it means to be genuinely, irreplaceably, unmistakably yourself. They've never experienced anyone like you. And now that they have, nothing ordinary will ever feel quite the same again. You did that simply by being exactly who you are. Don't change a single thing. Not one.